Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this online talk from the Contemporary Art Society for Wales. This talk is the second of three talks being produced in collaboration with Amgueddfa Cymru, National Museum, Wales. And I'm delighted to introduce this evening's speakers from the museum. Melanie Polledri, who's the Curator of Digital Art Collections, and Carys Tudor, Digital Curator within the Art Department. Good evening, both.
Good evening.
As part of the wider National Contemporary Art Wales initiative, Melanie is working on the digitisation of the collections to form the virtual art collection. Before that, she worked on the museum's Welsh and international art collections to facilitate their accessibility and management through exhibitions and research. Melanie has spoken widely, and I'm sure many of you will have seen her contribution to the BBC programme, The Story of Welsh Art, which was shown in 2021. Carys is responsible for implementing editorial and audiovisual content for the new Contemporary Art website, and has been working recently on several Celf ar y Cyd projects with the aim of sharing the museum's art collection during lockdown. Before starting this role in 2021, Carys was producer, archivist and marketeer at national institutions, including BBC Cymru and Theatr Genedlaethol Cymru. So I'm sure you'll all agree with me that we couldn't be in better hands to learn about the exciting new National Contemporary Art Wales project at Amgueddfa Cymru. Now, Melanie and Carys have agreed to take questions at the end of their talk for those joining us on Zoom. As the talk progresses, I'd like you to put your name and question into the chat box. And when we get to the point for questions, I will explain how this will work. So Melanie and Carys, starting with Melanie, over to you.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Roland, for that lovely introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. I hope everybody can see that, because I can't tell now if everybody can.
It's fine. Brilliant.
So thanks again, Roland. It's really great to be here this evening to talk about this exciting project. As you know, my name's Melanie Polledri, and I'm the Curator of Digital Art Collections at Amgueddfa Cymru. Our talk this evening will look at the digitisation of the National Collection at the museum, and we will deliver this in two parts. There are two areas to this project, the front end and the back end, and these are technical terms, I can assure you. And I am working on the back end, the digitisation team. So my half of the talk looks at the hidden behind the scenes processes of this project, while Carys will focus on the website and how we engage with the virtual art collection. This Carys' side does sound quite a lot more glamorous than mine, but I can assure you the digitisation process is really, really important. Without it, there'd be no project. Before I talk about this, I'll briefly introduce the aims of the project. As part of the wider National Contemporary Art for Wales initiative, the digitisation of the National Art Collection at Amgueddfa Cymru will create a virtual art collection to provide a greater visual access to art in store and on display. This will form the content for a new website. And we are working towards the development of an intelligent and future-proof digital collection to foster an understanding of the rich visual culture of Wales, whilst simultaneously working towards a fully bilingual resource. As Carys will explain, this project intends to change the way the people of Wales and beyond engage with contemporary art through new and innovative ways, making the collection more accessible, giving everyone the chance to browse, research, and be inspired by our Welsh National Collection. As I've said, all of this is only possible really through the work of the digitisation team. So I will take you through the processes that works go through before reaching Carys' team. From checking works are actually where they're supposed to be, any conservation requirements to photography, keywords and copyright. I promise you it's more interesting than it sounds, and we will also look at some art as well. This is actually a really great opportunity to audit works, and it's rare to have the time and energy and resources to go through the collection with such a fine-tooth comb. So how do we start to digitize a collection that contains tens of thousands of unique artworks spanning a history of hundreds of years to the present day? This includes over 2,500 paintings and sculptures, 12,000 ceramics and other applied art objects, and 35,000 prints and drawings, as well as significant collections of photographs and other contemporary works in a variety of media. Firstly, it helps that this is a contemporary art project, so that narrows the field a little. Having said that, we had to make several decisions in defining the parameters within which to operate. And this meant asking several questions. And one in particular for us was a big one. And perhaps everybody this evening listening to this talk or involved with KASU might think a very simple one. However, for the purposes of this project, it was really significant. And that is, what do we mean by contemporary art? We decided to keep this as broad and inclusive as we could, so that it would enable us to digitize as many works as possible. With this in mind, and perhaps not technically accurate, we decided to look at art works by artists alive post-World War II, basically artists living from the mid-20th century. This way, we could be as inclusive as possible. We also needed to decide whether we include historic or modern works, where we draw the line and yet remain as inclusive as we can. Why would we include historic art? What would be the impact of this? The answer to this is contemporary relevance. What do I mean by contemporary relevance? And I think probably the best is to show some examples. And a clear candidate is the 18th century artist printmaker, Philip James de Lutherberg, and his print, The Bard, which you can see here on the left of the screen. This was the frontispiece to Edward Jones' musical and poetical relics of the Welsh bards, the second edition, in fact, of 1794. And this work has inspired many artists and references Welsh nationalist sentiments. Bard Attitude on the right of the screen is by the contemporary Welsh artist Bedwyr Williams, who explores what this work means in Wales today. Another example is Evan Walters, who was born in 1892 and died in 1951, and he just gets into the contemporary art, but he's also forms other links. This is a sketch of his called Head of Boy, which you can see in the top left-hand corner of the screen. But what I'm interested in for this purpose is on the back, on the verso of this image, in the top left-hand corner of the work, there is a very, very small sketch, no bigger really than a postage stamp. Yet it gives us insight into the artist's experimentation of ideas. The formal composition of this sketch evokes Manet's Olympia, bottom right, of 1865, which in turn references Titian's Venus of Urbino, completed in 1538. Walters plays with his ideas through historic compositions, and he's exploring ways of expressing, visually exploring ways of expressing concepts such as the reclining nude, ideas of the feminine erotic, earlier 20th century notions of prostitution and the goddess. So both these are prime examples of the relationship of historic works and contemporary relevance. Many artists draw on historic works for influence, for reference, or to rail against. Historic art informs art practice today, so including some not only provides context, it also provides a visual resource source for practicing contemporary artists in Wales and further afield, as well as widening interest in art in Wales. And Carys will have more to say on this a little bit later. So with parameters in place, we then turn to logistics. We needed to set up a project photography studio, and this was not without problems. COVID, as it has for all of us, intervened with our plans. We were faced with a 3-month delay with the delivery of our brand new, shiny, state-of-the-art, super high-tech photography equipment. We have, however, worked all the way through the second lockdown, even though the museum was closed to the public, to get back on track. Alongside the photography setup, we had a lot to do to sort the works. We had to, where were they located? What medium are they? What size are they? How are we going to make them easily identifiable for photography? In short, how are we going to make a project involving thousands of works efficient and well functioning? And the images that you can see here in this slide are the prints and drawer, a corner of the prints and drawing room on the center and the left-hand side of your screen, and on the right-hand side, the store that holds works on paper in frames. So first, we carried out a huge mapping exercise to locate, order, and select relevant works. Then we had to start to decide how we were going to process them. So we came up with codes, or two codes actually, for each work. A unique code for uploading into the software systems and a physical color-coded system. We created a metadata spreadsheet that includes all the relevant info, title, artist, medium, and of course the unique codes. You can see this actually if you look in the map works, especially this one here in the center. You will notice the color codes on the cylinder boxes. And we have a full color code system. So we have a red sticker for contemporary works, we have a blue sticker for historic works, we have a yellow sticker for works that the photographer can identify that need to be digitized. And then we have green ones, which are really exciting for us because that means they're photographed. And all the works that you can see in the Solander boxes in these images are digitized and ready to go nearly. So the spreadsheet creates the workflow for the project conservator and photographer. Once the works are photographed and digitized, they're uploaded into the digital art library, ready for copyright clearance and keywording, which I'll return to later. During this process, we've rediscovered just how wide-ranging the works included are, and that many works, even ones that might seem really little and insignificant, have really interesting stories. And I just want to share a few with you. This is a work by Kenneth Armitage, who was a sculptor, and this work that you're looking at here was a gift, a CASU gift in 1980. Armitage studied at the Slade School of Art and is known for his semi-abstract bronze sculptures. This is a pen and ink drawing, and it shows how he was working out design ideas for his three-dimensional works. Armitage's sculptures place an emphasis on the human figure and show influences that include Giacometti and Picasso. Armitage was also fascinated by the British Museum's collection of Egyptian and Cycladic art, especially the frontality of Egyptian sculpture. He developed a uniquely recognizable and often humorous style of figures with elongated skinny limbs that grow out of or from distorted slab-like bodies, as you can see here with the image on the left. The juxtaposition of horizontal and vertical elements creates oppositional movements between the figure and the plane. So with this in mind, the sketch on the back of the work is particularly interesting. Rather than more of Armitage's distinct figures, we can see very traditional and clearly recognizable seated female nude figure. This allows a glimpse of his previous training and approaches to his work. Another hidden gem is Gwen John. While Gwen John is not a contemporary artist, she has direct contemporary relevance. And when I say hidden gem, I don't mean that Gwen John is a hidden gem, because we all know that she's there. But this important Welsh women artist is well represented in the collection. And the works that I've chosen here, including a CASU gift, I think in 1947, gifted to the museum, shows her developmental processes from sketch to painting. She has in the past been overshadowed not only by her brother Augustus John, but her lover, the French sculptor Auguste Rodin. Think of the kiss. Gwen spent most of her adult life in France and converted to Catholicism in 1913. We hold numerous paintings of people in church, including many nuns. She also had a passion for cats, and she acquired many during her lifetime, and they frequently feature in her work. Her favourite was a female tortoiseshell cat called Edgar Quinet, named after the boulevard in which she lived at the time. In 1908, the cat disappeared and Gwen was devastated, and she even composed a poem about her feelings, which she sent to Rodin. It's the back of this centre work, The Study of a Young Girl, that I feel is the hidden gem. It's especially interesting because it reveals tangible evidence of these, or of Gwen's beloved creatures. As you can see there are paw prints, cat paw prints across the image on the back. Although this work is undated, it is from the early 20th century, and who knows, maybe these paw prints even belong to Edgar Quinet. And the last work I'd just like to show you is by an 18th century artist called James Seymour. And Seymour was a painter of sport, in particular horse racing and hunting. And the first slide shows the image presented under its mount. And it appears to be a simple study for a hare. Yet when we open the mount, a different narrative is inferred. While we can see that someone, perhaps the artist even, has clearly tried to obscure the drawing of the figure holding the club and the fact that there are different colours, you can see here the result of light damage, the darker area here, which has been exposed to light for a longer period of time. So this image is meant to be seen with just the hair for a while. Nevertheless, our imaginations are left to ponder a potentially brutal scenario. This just goes to show that we may think we're seeing the whole picture, but are we? And it brings in all issues about the manipulation of the viewer and how people can be, people can not necessarily see the whole picture. So moving on, what else do we need to do to get the works on the website? Conservation also plays a part, and here we can see on the centre and the right image our paper conservator Fiona at work. So while auditing, we also precondition check the works and triage them for the paper conservator. Given the huge amount of works, we cannot make sure that absolutely every single work is in optimal condition prior to photography. But what we can do is make sure that those most in need of attention are treated. Conservation work falls into two categories: mounting works and conservation treatment. The conservation issues we look for range from a wide variety, but the most alarming conditions, such as active insect infestations, damp and mold, fortunately are very rare. You'll be relieved to know that I haven't found any, despite the thousands of images I've been through. Within the museum, all the works are kept in specific environmental conditions that are continually monitored, as this environmental monitor here, the black box on the left of your screen, demonstrates. Loose mounted hinges are also another problem that can occur over time, and we need to address this to prevent future damage. The mounts are there after all to protect the works. And some new acquisitions can come in not perfect conditions, especially for photography. And you can see here on the right of the image, Fiona is flattening some works that have come in from Catherine Webster, and they arrived so tightly rolled that we couldn't possibly digitize them. So they're undergoing a very gentle flattening process. So the photography, we have to set up areas and a studio, especially for this project, with the aforesaid equipment to shoot high-res images. Once digitized and on the new website, users will be able to zoom into the image to see even the tiniest detail. The images you can see here are where flat works will be photographed, such as sketches, sketchbooks, sketches on paper, paintings on canvas, paintings in frames. And all of these bring with them their own set of requirements, especially when we move beyond the works for this copy stand. We have to adapt. To shoot different size works, we need different setups and alternative spaces. For example, a large framed work, perhaps up to 2 meters wide, has very different requirements from a small sketchbook of 20 centimeters. And these images here show the different setups we have put in place to accommodate different sizes and types of works. And Carys will also enlarge on this a little bit later. Once digitized and uploaded onto the digital art library, for work to be visible on the website, they need copyright clearance. Well, I'm not going to delve too deeply into this minefield. Suffice to say that pretty much all contemporary works are in copyright. That is, artists still living or who died after 1951. The art collection is currently only partially documented by image. Many existing image records are inaccessible because of lack of copyright clearance. This project aims to address this. By the time the website is launched in 2023, most of the 20,000 works we will have digitized, and those with images but hidden from view will have copyright clearance and be accessible to all. The last thing I want to talk to you about before handing over to Carys is how we're going to find these images on the website search functionality. I mean, after all, it's no good having all these amazing images on the lovely new website if they can't be found. Currently, the collection is available on two main platforms, on Amgueddfa Cymru's Collections Online page and the UK National Art Database, Art UK. Part of this initiative is to invest in new ways that users can search for images other than artist name and title of work, so that users can search for artworks via thematic search criteria. This requires each image to be keyworded by content, theme, and so on. It's a complex task that needs specific training, and maybe you might want to think about this as you look at the images that are on the screen and how maybe you would think of words to search for these. Each work must be looked at by the keyworder and their keywords noted on the museum database. This will then feed into the website's search function. This is not as straightforward as you might think. While landscape, hill, castle, dog might seem easy enough, a search for, say, orange, for example, can mean the colour, the fruit, politics, place, or even a film company. Emotions are also open to several interpretations, although particularly tricky areas are those around identity, sexual orientation, physical appearance. Mindful of unconscious bias, we must think carefully about what the keywords mean and from whose perspective. This could actually be a talk in itself, so I'm going to stop here, other than to say that once digitized, keyworded, uploaded onto the software systems and copyright is cleared, they are ready for Carys and her web team to start their work. So I'll hand over to Carys. Thank you very much.
Diolch yn fawr, Melanie. Noswaith dda, everyone. Let me just share my screen. So, my name is Carys, and as mentioned kindly by Roland, I'm the digital curator in the art department here at Amgueddfa Cymru. I was appointed at the end of June last year, having worked previously at Theatr Genedlaethol Cymru as marketing officer, and prior to that as an information researcher and archivist at BBC Cymru Wales. Having graduated with a degree in Welsh language and literature from Bangor University in 2014, I then studied for a master's degree in Welsh literature. I'm particularly fascinated by creative responses to certain themes, and my master's degree concentrated on the creative response to industry in Wales, particularly the 1984 to 85 miners' strike. My journey with Amgueddfa Cymru began in 2020 when, on a freelance basis, I was tasked with managing a new Instagram account called Amgueddfa Cymru, which loosely translates as Art Together. First up on the account was the museum's new project, Art 100. The art department at the museum had carefully put together a long list of 100 artworks for me to share on the account over the course of about 3 months, asking people to vote for their favourites. It was a way for the museum to share its collection with its audiences whilst the museum's doors were closed due to COVID. You can head over to Instagram to see the project in its entirety. But this was my first step into the visual arts sector and was a great learning opportunity for me. It was also Amgueddfa Cymru's first time experimenting with presenting the art collection in a new way for its audiences. When this particular role came up, I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to widen my knowledge and understanding, and I've had a fantastic time learning a bit more about the visual arts sector and ways in which we can communicate the collections to a wider audience. So what does a new website for the contemporary art collection mean? Before heading straight into trying to answer this question and building a new site, we conducted a Wales-wide consultation. The aims of this consultation was to hear from people across Wales, putting the users of this future site first and ensuring that the site we build answers the needs of our audiences. We conducted the consultation from September until mid-December last year and identified 3 main groups with whom we wanted to discuss the project: the art sector, the education sector, and our wider communities, including the online community. In the visual arts sector, we contacted galleries and institutions across Wales, art collectives, and individual artists. I was very humbled to be in touch with so many amazing artists and visual arts organisations from across Wales and beyond. It was so exciting to hear about what people across the sector are currently working towards and was a fantastic way for us to share some more information about our project. I'd like to extend my thanks to KASU for helping us with the consultation and in meeting with me to discuss the project and to gain the Society's thoughts on the potentials and possibilities behind this new platform. So many of our artistic community here in Wales were very grateful to have been included in the consultation, with many sharing their knowledge, skills and expertise with us. Our consultation with the formal learning sector meant speaking with primary and secondary education establishments across Wales, as well as further education institutions across the country. Discussing how the Contemporary Art Project could engage with the new curriculum and how students can engage with the collection in a varied and interactive way was brilliant. The idea of the project was welcomed by the education sector, excited by the opportunities this could bring to engage students with Welsh art and the National Art Collection in new, innovative ways. Our reach with wider communities and audiences was concentrated on a few different areas: interested adults and the online community, young people in the 16 to 25 age group, and people with access needs. We were keen to speak with a variety of ages and backgrounds in order to ensure that people from across Wales were able to contribute to this consultation. We invited other institutions to work with us, and as a result have made some fantastic partnerships with others such as Race Council Cymru, Radio Platform, Disability Arts Cymru and WJC. Having spoken to some of these partner organisations, it was clear to us that our consultation should focus on the user in as human a way as possible. We wanted to gain some insight into the kinds of people our consultation was reaching, and as a result, we changed our methods with regards to gathering personal information. Rather than including a series of tick box questions asking people to share information, we decided to opt for a more open-ended approach, inviting people to respond as they wished. So rather than including a question such as, please state your age bracket, or how would you describe your ethnicity, we created a question that was a way for us to be more inclusive. In your own words, how would you describe your identity? Offering people the option to include aspects describing their age, ethnicities, any disabilities, and so on. As a result, the responses we've had have been much richer, more cross-sectional, and have given us a greater insight to the people who are interested in the platform and contemporary art more generally across Wales. We conducted the consultation through a variety of different means: online surveys, focus groups, e-newsletters, social media quizzes, and one-on-one conversations. We had a few different online surveys tailored to the specific sectors where we were able to ask respondents about the ways in which they already consume art content, their thoughts about types of artworks, themes, and voices. We had some fun experimenting with social media, sharing some playful comparisons and asking people to vote on Amgueddfa Cymru's Instagram account. What would you choose? My personal favourite came in the suggestion from one of our curators. Who's your hero from this example in the middle? By mid-December, we closed the consultation as we were satisfied with a great response of over 700 respondents across our activities. The discussions we had with those we consulted with were constructive, both confirming some of our initial thoughts, but also raising questions, new ideas, and new pathways for us to follow. Since concluding the consultation, we have appointed a company to analyse the data we have collected, and they are currently working through the anonymised data to find trends for us in order to ensure that when building the new platform, we are able to respond directly to the responses we received last year. KASU are leaders in the field of human factors and will be helping us to understand user behaviour to deliver the right technologies in the right ways to optimise outcomes for the new platform. They are helping us understand the breadth of the data that we have collected and collate it together to give us a great picture of the cross-sector use and expectations of this new platform. I'm excited to tell you that what I'm sharing on my screen is the first set of interim data that we received from KASU just last week. As you can see from this word cloud, when asked, why would you be using this site? People have responded with a variety of words to describe the uses and expectations from this new platform. Similarly, you can see in this pie chart the ways in which people currently consume art. We decided to separate in real life from in a gallery or museum, as we felt it was important that people are able to see art all around them, in a cafe, on the street, on a school corridor. This is not only important data for us as we build and develop our new platform for contemporary art, but it also gives us a picture of the trends and attitudes towards art more generally in Wales in 2021. Since bringing the public consultation to a close, we have also commissioned 4Pi to research the possibilities of a new and innovative virtual gallery that would sit alongside the site. 4Pi is an award-winning creative studio that blends powerful emerging technologies with cross-media storytelling approaches, producing immersive experiences that reach out to audiences in new and engaging ways. 4Pi explores the boundaries between art, design, and technology. And in 2019, they opened their Cult VR Lab in Cardiff, Europe's first immersive cross-disciplinary space with a strong focus on digital arts, live performance, and 360-degree cinema. 4Pi work across multiple creative and cultural disciplines, from the visual arts and digital arts to dance, theatre, and music. They are currently researching the technologies and developments in virtual and augmented reality to inform new ways in which people will be able to access art online and digitally into the future. We at Amgueddfa Cymru have commissioned 4Pi to engage with people across Wales and beyond to see what they would anticipate from an XR experience. But what exactly is XR? XR, or extended reality, is an umbrella term encapsulating virtual reality, VR, augmented reality, AR, and mixed reality, MR. Virtual reality is the use of computer technology to create a simulated environment. Augmented reality is an enhanced version of the real physical world that is achieved through the use of digital visual elements, sounds, or other sensory stimuli delivered via technology. Mixed reality is a medium consisting of immersive computer-generated environments in which elements of a physical and virtual environment are combined. We can't wait to see what 4Pi come up with as some innovative solutions for us that will really give this site its USP and create an enhanced user experience for our audiences. In order to coordinate the editorial content for the new site and to ensure relevant pieces of information are created for the platform, we've established our art editorial group. The group is looking at some of the unknown works and putting together some copy to enhance the understanding of them for our audiences. In order to do this successfully, we're working thematically. For example, we're currently working on Wales and Welsh relevance, or Cymru a Chymreigdod, working title, as our first theme. And some of you may know of CASW works such as Peter Coker's Tonopandi Naval Colliery that come to mind when looking at this theme. But not only are we looking to create short and bite-sized captions for these works, we're also going to be writing articles that will add to the discourse around art in Wales. For example, Peter Coker's work could be paired with the works you see in front of you. 115 Mining by Thomas Henry Thomas and Evan Walters's Kevin Cyfalach Colliery. Two artworks depicting collieries, but both looking at them from different angles. Thomas's work is a historic work and a more wide shot of the colliery, whereas Walters focuses singularly on the pithead winding gear. Both of these works use the colliery as the main focus, and you might just be able to work out the shadows of individuals. In Thomas's work, it's onlookers following an explosion here in Cwtch Colliery in the Rhondda. Walters's work has the appearance of a man at the top of a ladder on the winding gear. David Hearn, on the other hand, has captured children playing here in his photograph on the site of an old colliery, namely Six Bells. The mine is now a mere shadow, and people are placed front and centre in this particular work, and it is in stark contrast with the other works. When we'll be creating article content, we're going to be looking at pairings like this that either complement or negate one another. Why do they work together? What makes them different? These are also interesting pieces when we look at the term contemporary relevance that Melanie mentioned. where we will be able to draw on Amgueddfa Cymru's vast historic collection to make comparisons and reassess works by adding more contemporary narratives. The new platform needs to be seen as a go-to place for anyone looking for information on art in Wales. This is something that was relayed to us time and time again during the consultation. But how do we go about ensuring that the content we create is of interest and of the highest quality for our users? In January, the art department received some fantastic SEO training from a colleague in our digital media department. SEO, or search engine optimization, is a way in which we can tailor our content to the needs of those trying to find out more information about something. It will increase the ranking of a piece in search engine results. A wise old owl once told me that the best place to hide a dead body is in the third page of search results on Google. And this is not where we want our site to end up. This includes conducting some user research and ensuring that the content is written in a digestible, concise, yet informative manner. Ashish was able to give us some handy hints and tips when creating article content for the new site. I won't share all of our secrets just yet, but we hope that the content we create will be easily found for those using search engines. As part of this project, we're also commissioning new AV content that will sit on the site. So many of the respondents to our consultation said that they'd like to see some video content sharing knowledge, experience, and processes. People are particularly enthused by the idea of behind-the-scenes content. Artist studio tours, technical lessons, and exhibition planning were all suggested to us as ideas for video content. I'll just play this short clip that we've put together that shows our photographer Robin, along with 2 technicians, who are preparing an artwork to be photographed. I'm afraid that you'll have to wait until the website's launched to see exactly what they've been digitizing. Not only will we be creating content internally, but we will also be looking at commissioning externally in order to make the voices on this new site as varied as possible. This has been trialled with another Curator project, Canvas. Canvas is our new digital art magazine, which is completely contributor-led and engages new and diverse voices around the National Art Collection of Amgueddfa Cymru. Over the past 8 editions, we have appointed guest editors to coordinate content for the online magazine. Our themes have varied from Black Lives Matter to LGBTQ+, Cynefin, as well as music and power and money. We've created open calls for submissions, and each guest editor has selected the articles they wish to commission as part of their edition. The open calls have invited people of all backgrounds to submit pieces that respond to objects in Amgueddfa Cymru's collections. These have varied from creative responses to opinion articles, new pieces of music, and visual art contributions. We're looking forward to building on our experience of putting Canvas together, and it will help shape our content for the new site even further. But what next? We're excited to see where this project will develop over the next few months. A lot of what I've spoken about this evening is work in progress, and there's so much more yet to develop. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about some of our ideas and methods behind this new platform, as we are still in the very early stages of mapping this project out. We look forward to sharing more with our audiences over the coming months. Diolch.
Now, we're going to move on to questions. If you all go to gallery view, sorry, it's not gallery view, speaker view, my apologies, we should be on speaker view. Go to speaker view. I've allowed you to unmute yourselves, but I would ask that you remain muted until I ask you to give your question. And then would you return to mute afterwards in order that the next questioner can come on. So far, I've got 2 questions in the box, and both are from Sean. So, Sean, it's over to you, and you can ask your 2 questions, please.
Yes, I've got 2 questions. The first one is for Melanie. Melanie, I just wondered, how long does it take to clear copyright? I mean, copyright is something which is of considerable interest to KASU members in particular, and I just wondered how long it took you to get that sorted for the, for the project. And then if I can just ask Carys a question at the same time. Carys, what surprised you most about the responses that you had as part of your consultation? There must have been some surprises and things that you weren't quite expecting, and I was just wondering what they might be.
Melanie, do you want to go first and answer yours first?
Yeah. Thanks, Sean. We have a very busy copyright officer in the museum. She's working diligently away, but copyright is a very slow process, as I'm sure lots of you are aware. There's a very specific process that you have to go through, including due diligence, research to find copyright holders. There's a process of having to, especially ones that are not with big agencies like DAX or Bridgman, then there is the research to find the copyright holder, to contact the copyright holder. If the copyright holder doesn't respond, they have to be contacted 3 times. The final time will be giving them a date that the work will then be declared an orphan work. So there's a lot of processes to go through, and it has affected sort of our choices for our presentation this evening, because various works, we just haven't yet got them cleared for sort of wider presentation yet. But we are working on it, and by the time that the project is ready for the website is ready to be launched, we will have the copyright in place. But it's a slow process most of the time. Sometimes it can be very, very quick, but a lot of the time it takes a while.
What does it say?
I'll take your question on the surprises from the consultation as well, Shan. What was really lovely about the consultation was how much people wanted to share their views and their opinions. And I think something that was really special for us was seeing how many people, because I led in the arts sector consultations. What was really special was seeing how many people wanted us to really concentrate on access and people with additional access needs. And I think that's something that in this digital day and age, we have to be so aware of, because I think lots of people create websites without thinking twice about what other additional needs will be needed. It's all well and good as somebody who's a bit of a whiz kid on digital content to do things quite swift and quite easily, but stepping back and thinking about what people with access needs will need when we're building the site is something that so many people wanted us to be aware of, which was really special actually. Things like people were suggesting things like alternative text, on any images, those kinds of things. So we're looking at the options that are available to us to see how we embed that into the new site. Things like British Sign Language interpretation, those kind of things are the things that we're looking at the moment to see how we can build a site that is as accessible as possible, because it's really important that so many of these artworks are hidden away in stores in the museum that anyone and everyone can access these wherever they are in Wales and whatever device they may be using as well.
Right, thank you for that. Before I ask the next question to come on, can I just ask everybody to check that when they're not asking a question, they are on mute, as we did get a bit of crossover on that one. Right, next question is from Neil Lebeter. Now, a lot of you will remember that Neil spoke to us a month ago on the rules of art. So, Neil, would you like to ask your question, please? Sorry, Neil, it's not coming through very clearly at the moment.
Sorry, apologies, Roland, hang on. Is that any better?
That's a lot better, thanks.
It'd gone down my jumper, I think. And thank you both for a really interesting presentation. It was a quick question for Carys around the consultations. And obviously the kind of virtual galleries are a bit of a brave new world for us, and the kind of post-lockdown kind of looking at different ways of experiencing physical spaces. So what came out of the consultations about what people want to see, what people want to get out and kind of see in those digital representations of gallery spaces?
Yeah, so with regards to virtual galleries, which I don't know if everybody caught what Neil was asking there, but he's popped it in the chat as well. What was interesting about the consultation was that so many people have experienced some sort of virtual galleries, you know, digital walkthroughs and that kind of thing. You know, they've been around for a number of years now. But what was interesting was that people, I think, wanted us to be aware of digital fatigue, and that since the pandemic, that people want to be taken on a guided journey. People's attention span has changed. People were asking for bite-sized pieces of information, and that was the same with the virtual gallery experience as well. People want something that's really tactile and really easy to use. And I think that's something that was really obvious from the consultation, was that people have begun to find those sort of virtual 360-degree kind of immersive experiences quite a lot of hard work compared with what they're willing to do to get something out of using a digital virtual space. So we're really excited actually to be working with 4Pi and seeing what they can do that can change that ever so slightly. So they're doing some fantastic research at the moment to see what else is out there, what people are looking for over the next 10 years as well, and you know, how are those technologies going to change as well. So it's going to be really interesting actually to see what they come up with as a solution for us, so that we can implement that side by side with the new site.
Great. Right, now I'm not sure if it's a question or just a comment, but there is one that's coming from Fiona Peel. So Fiona, would you like to?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to make it's both comment and question, really, I think, which is about sort of, you've obviously engaged a lot with younger people and a range of people with disabilities and very much in the sort of the modern way. Now, there's a whole bunch of us who are getting a bit older and we have time on our hands, and we are probably a very good audience for you. And yet I can't see anywhere that you've kind of really paid attention to those who are growing elderly and still want to enjoy contemporary art and review our own opinions. How much cognizance have you taken of our group?
That's a really good question. I didn't mention it in my presentation, but we did consult with an older community as well. That was through a session conducted by Race Council Cymru. So what we're hoping to do is, as this website develops as well, and as we test the new technologies as we build the site, we will be going out to people again to consult with them to see whether the kinds of things that we're building and the kinds of voices that we're using are what people want as well. So it's not a forgotten area of society at all. And I probably should have mentioned that as part of my presentation. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Consult me.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Right. The next question I have is from the KASU president, Dr. Peter Waitlin. Peter.
Hello, thanks very much for that presentation. It's very interesting to see what's going on. There's a huge amount obviously being digitised and put together. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. One of the things that I was wondering about was whether the digitised material is also going to be available with its enhanced data on services we might already be used to using, which people are generally using a lot, like Art UK as probably the foremost one. But also the National Museum's own collections online and art collections online, which are great resources.
Shall I
Yeah.
go first, and then you can fill in? All the material that's been digitized, and thank you for the question, it's really interesting, is going through the museum databases, which pulls through to the existing collections online. So it is at the moment available to be viewed there, copyright permitting, but it will be on the new website with new editorial content, but there will be a certain degree of linkage in terms of accessibility. As far as Art UK is concerned, at the moment, I think it's oil paintings and sculpture. So a lot of the works on paper will not be going on there yet, as far as I'm aware, unless anybody else knows anything different on Art UK. But sorry.
If I just answer that, Art UK will take anything that's
will
an art.
they? Right, okay.
So, for example, Yale Centre for British Art, they've taken everything that Yale has.
Yeah, right. I think it's down to sort of some of the other curators that specialise in the different areas of the collection as to if that goes on to Art UK. But there will be everything that at the moment that's been digitised is pulling through to collections online, and then it's going to be there will be a lot more editorial content on the new website.
Yeah, I think Melanie's covered that really well. I don't really have anything to add, just that what we're hoping is the new site will give a different kind of experience from collections online with the article content and that kind of thing as well. But the core information about the works and the images of those works will pull through to both sites.
Very much.
Carys, sorry, Peter, didn't mean to talk across you there. Right, at the moment, there are no other questions in there, but I'm going to take the chairman's privilege of asking a question myself. And my question is really all about the future. You go live in 2023, you're having your launch then, but what about updating? How are you going to keep this resource updated going forward?
That's a really good question. We're looking at a plan at the moment to see how frequently, and that was a question that was asked, that we asked people as part of the consultation, how often did they want to see new content? So we're waiting on K-Sharp to give us the sort of data on that. But yeah, what we're hoping to do is put a plan together that will help keep this site alive, and that it is responding to sort of maybe newsworthy topics or celebratory events and things, as well as adding to sort of a more general discourse around art in Wales. So it might be, I don't know, something responding to the National Eisteddfod, for example, and that we have a week celebrating some of the works in the collection that have been purchased through the Eisteddfod, or that kind of thing, so that we are looking at almost like a news calendar, as well as creating new content that is more general about the collection as well.
So does that mean sorry, I was going to sorry, Mel, I spoke across you. I was going to ask a supplementary, but I'm going to let you respond first.
And I was only just going to add a brief sentence just to say that this digitisation project is part of a wider National Contemporary Art for Wales initiative. So this is ongoing. It's not a finite project, if you like. So it's part of a wider initiative to going forwards.
Right, so you must excuse the fact that as a lawyer, I only asked one question so that I can throw a time bomb in with the second one, which was, so if you're going to be updating and doing the things, Carys, that you talked about, does that mean that your themes and thematic basis will have to change or may change as well?
I think that's a possibility. I think one of the things that came back from the consultation was that people didn't want the site to change too drastically too often, because that can be quite jarring for the user. One of why we've kept the themes quite broad is so that they can absorb any kind of discussions or discourse around those kinds of themes. So we're looking at them in a very broad sense, rather than, you know, something like cinema and art, for example, which might be a bit of a more narrow topic at the moment. We're looking at, that's why we're looking at Wales and Welsh relevance, for example, as our first theme, because that can mean so many different things. So we're concentrating at the moment on 8 different themes, and that's where we hope to build more of the article content around it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, no, sorry, yes, no, that's ridiculous. Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Carys. Now, I haven't got any more questions in the chat box. So I'm assuming at that point that we've completely bamboozled everybody in KASU on digitisation and the rest of it. Thank you all who did ask questions for some very interesting points being raised, but most of all, thanks to Mel and Carys for such an interesting talk. I have to say that KASU is going through a website change and boosting its media presence and all the rest of it. And I've got a feeling that when I pass your names to Jeremy Points, who's running that, he's going to have 1,000 questions and he's going to want to email you and pick your brains on. So I'm afraid there's going to be a cost to doing this talk. In a moment, I'm going to invite you all to say thank you to Melanie and Carys. But before I do, I'm going to take the moment to advertise. I used to feel guilty about this until I saw Carys's last slide come up, where she was pushing that Amgueddfa Cymru is a charity and asking for donations. So I'm going to do my bit and say, if you want to know more about KASU, including how to become a member, please visit our website, kasu.org.uk, for all the relevant information, and that includes how to become a member. Also, let me tell you that our next speaker online will be Andrew Renton from the museum, whose talk is entitled Dylunio, a new design agenda for Amgueddfa Cymru. Right, so in order to say thank you properly, let's all switch to the gallery view. Everybody and I'm not quite sure about feedback, but in any event, now's your opportunity to whistle, clap. We don't allow doing in KASU, very polite people. But to say thank you very much to Mel and